UFC is making a return to Brazil, with this headlining card of Charles Oliveira versus Mateus Gamrot. I'm going to be giving my predictions and preview to this card and what I believe is going to go down or what will go down. Because as of in terms of last week of what I had in terms of my predictions for UFC 320, if you guys were tapped into that, it went amazing, and I believe this one will go the same. First fight on this card, starting it off, we got Luan Lacerda versus Simon Oliveira. I mean, what a beautiful way to be able to start off this card. Absolute banger. Everybody's gonna be tuned into this one, even if it is the early prelim headliner, curtain jerker moment. This is gonna be bar none one of the best fights of all time. Simon Oliveira has lost every single matchup in the UFC so far in his career. Yeah, that's an actual thing. That is an actual thing. He's lost to Daniel Marcos and David Martinez, both by KO, who has been higher in the bantamweight rankings in terms of where they're at in so far their career. And Luan Lacerda has lost both of his UFC fights last time out to Damon Blackshear, and that's been about 2 years ago. So, yeah, I mean, this one is just absolutely perfect. Both Brazilians going at it, battling it out on the UFC. I think this is in Rio card. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go with Simon Oliveira just because he's been more active. That's why I'm going to go with him. There is no other reason. There is literally no other reason as to why that's my pick. Anyways, now moving up the card, and we got Julia Palostri versus Carolina Kowalkiewicz. Butchered that name. Doesn't matter, though. Palostri, last time out, she lost to Lupe Godinez by decision, and Carolina is on a two-fight losing streak as of right now to Yasmin Lucindo and Denise Gomez. She's been out for about a year. I'm gonna go with Julia Palostri in her home country. I don't know if it is her hometown, but I know it is in her home country. Losing to Lupina Godinez as of right now is nothing to be ashamed of or really to scoff at. Lupi is on a tear as of right now. She's really jumping up in the rankings in the strawweight division. And Carolina has been a vet. She's been there, done that. She's been in the UFC for quite some time. She's literally 500. She's batting 500 as of right now, 9 of 9 in her UFC career. So, yeah, I guess I trust Palostri to be able to come out on top in a regular 29-28 WMMA bout. And now moving up the card, we got Walter Walker versus Muhammad Usman. Walter Walker has been on a heel hook run as of right now, winning 3 straight fights by that same submission. Last time out, he beat Kennedy Nzechukwu, who I thought was going to be able to get a victory over him because I thought that, him moving up to light heavyweight, then going into the heavyweight, carrying over the power and the speed advantage, having that lighter man skill, as we like to be able to talk about. But Walter Walker literally just trampled him and got him out of there. Muhammad Usman is coming off a victory over Hamdi Abdel-Wahab. Yeah, I mean, who hasn't beat him? And it is very easy to be able to beat him. I'm going to go with Walter Walker on this one. While Mo Usman can carry some power in terms of his hands, and he's good with a jab and a low kick every now and then, I think Walter Walker has the advantages everywhere. And now moving up the card, we got Lucas Rocha versus Stuart Nicole. Lucas Rocha, last time out, he got RNC'd by Clayton Carpenter, who's also on this card. Both of these guys have been out for about a year. Stuart Nicole lost to Jesus Aguilar by guillotine, so both of these guys got choked out last time out that they've been in the UFC so far. It really is up and up. It can go either way. I'm going to go with Lucas Rocha. I think the Brazilian is potentially going to get the job done in his home country. And if there is going to be a bet about that, I've already said that earlier with Palostri, earlier on this video, I'm going to lean that same way as well. Both of these guys are, don't really have a lot of deep UFC fights or have been in their UFC bag for quite some time. And Rocha has more experience in terms of his career. I'm going to go with Rocha on this one. And now moving up the card, we got Bia Mesquita versus Irina Aleksheva. Irina Alekseeva's on a 2-fight losing streak as of right now. Last time she lost to Claudia Segulia. Bia Mesquita is making her UFC debut. Every single win that she's had so far in his career in terms of the regional season has been done by finish, or whether it be by a knockout, or usually most of them have come by submission. I'm going to go with Bia Mesquita on this one. I think they're pretty much just lining up a pretty good fight for her to be able to start off in her career. Irina Alekseeva has been there, done that throughout her UFC career. She's a UFC journeywoman. She's there to be able to be fed for fodder on this one, and I think Bia Mesquita in this one is going to be able to make a statement in her UFC debut and get a finish against Irina Alekseeva. And now moving up the card, we got Victor Petrino versus Little Pig Boy Tommy Petey. Thomas Peterson is going to get knocked out on this one. Petrino, last time out, made his heavyweight debut against Austin Lane. Got a sub against him. Tommy Pete got a win over Dantel Mays by decision. He got KO'd by Shamil Gaziev. If Gaziev is knocking you out, the mastermind himself is knocking you out. Victor Petrino, with the lighter man skill, moving up to the heavyweight division, is definitely going to flatten Thomas Peterson out cold, stiff as a damn board. And now moving up on this card, we got Jafel Fihilo versus Clayton Carpenter. Jafel Fihilo last time out lost to Alan Nascimento in a grapplers matchup where it was literally whoever had top position throughout the majority of the round won the matchup. That's how it went. And Clayton Carpenter, last time out, he lost to Tagir Ulanbekov, his first loss in his pro career, and a really big test for him in the flyweight division to be able to really jump up in terms of the rankings. I'm going to go with Clayton Carpenter on this one. He has more potential. He has more things to be able to see about this. Even if it does go to the ground, I do think that Clayton Carpenter, even though Fieldholt is actually pretty well versed on the ground and has good BJJ and good ground and pound as well, I think Clayton Carpenter has the things to be able to get a win over a guy like Fieldholt. And I'm moving up to, I believe this is the main card start-off fight. We got Lucas Almeida versus Michael Aswell. Lucas Almeida last time lost to a split decision to Danny Silva, who is a pretty decent prospect. I think last time out, I forgot who he fought. I think it was Kevin Vallejos. There we go. In his matchup. Almeida's been there, done that. He's been a UFC journeyman. He's been there in the UFC for quite some time. Has his losses against the lower-ranked opposition, and as soon as he gets a jump up, he's getting out of there out cold or getting dominated just in general. Michael Aswell last time out lost to decision to Balaji Oki, which was an absolute banger matchup between those two guys. It was literally back and forth. Being able to really turn the tables, or tables have been turned against these guys in this one. That matchup was absolutely perfect. I think this was a nice serve up for Michael Aswell. I think he's going to get the job done against a guy like Lucas Almeida. Lucas Almeida, he has the experience, he has the IQ, he's been there, but I think Michael Aswell, in terms of the talent and especially in terms of the power and the stand-up, has him outgunned. And now moving up the card, we got Con Offley versus Ricardo Ramos. Ricardo Ramos last time out lost to Shepe Mariscal, who's, I believe, been on a long win streak as of right now in terms of his career. And Con Offley lost to Muhammad Naimov by decision. Con Offley, I think he works with TKB and those boys over there. His stand-up is pretty okay. He has good explosiveness every now and then, but I just think Ricardo Ramos, him having just being a way bigger dude than Con Offley, having the reach advantage as well. I think also the BJJ and grappling edge as well over a guy like Con Offley. I think those things just go into his fortitude, and I think Ricardo Ramos is going to get the job done. He is in his hometown as well. Not his hometown, but his home country. He has that advantage as well. I think this one is going to serve up a nice victory for Ricardo Ramos in this one. And I'm moving up the card. We got Janato Diniz versus Mario Pinto. This one's a hard one to be able to call. Really hard, in my honest opinion, especially in the heavyweight division. One blow to the head, and this one is going to go either way. Jonathan Diniz is coming off a decision win over Alvin Hines, who Alvin Hines made his UFC debut and then got popped for like PEDs, and it was a really close fight, and it was very entertaining, and Alvin Hines had his moment, but for the majority of the fight, Jonathan Deniz was in control and really doing the things that he wanted to be able to do throughout the entirety of the fight. He also has more experience in the UFC in his career. He's a decorated, I think, glory kickboxer or a kickboxer that has, been a champion so far in other promotions that he's been in. And he's lost to Marcin Tybura. I don't think he has to be able to worry about going to the ground or getting elbowed in the face like going against a guy like Mario Pinto. Pinto, in his UFC debut, got a KO over against Austin Lane. But, I mean, who hasn't finished Austin Lane, really, if you've been in the UFC and you've been a heavyweight so far? This one's tough. This one's coming down the line. I do think that Deniz does have the advantage on the feet, but I just favor Mario Pinto in this one. I think ever since that loss for Jonathan Deniz over Marcin Tybura, kind of took out a little bit of that killer instinct out of him, especially in that matchup against Alvin Hines. He's been a little bit more curious, a little bit more cautious. He doesn't want to be able to get himself in those type of firefights in those moments where he's going to get clipped or dropped to the ground or have anything to be able to worry about. I'm going to go with Mario Pinto on this one. I know he's more earlier in his career. I just see more promise in him, and especially in the heavyweight division. Both of these guys, again, there's these big, fat, tubby guys in there that are not in the best of shape, but I do think that Mario Pinto is going to get the job done by KO. And I'm moving on to the future fight on this card, and we got an absolute sacrifice. And if you think anything else is going to happen on this one, I don't know what you're thinking. Vicente Luque versus Joe Alvarez. Vicente Luque coming off an anaconda choke loss to Kevin Holland. And Joe Alvarez is coming off his KO victory over Drakkar Klose and is making his welterweight debut in this division. He was supposed to get a matchup against Benoit Saint Denis, but he withdrew from that matchup, I think, earlier in this year. I think it was supposed to be on that Paris card, if I remember correctly. It's supposed to be him, or if not, it was supposed to be earlier in the year. Joe Alvarez is going to run through Vicente Luque, and very easily. Unfortunate for the hardcore UFC fans that's been there and having Luque in these wars earlier in his career and going through all the trials and tribulations that he's been through. But ever since, coming off of his injury with his brain, he hasn't been that same type of fighter. He's been a lot more timid. He's not really wanting to be able to get himself in those type of exchanges that he did in his prime of his career. Understandably so. Understandably so, if we're going to get at that. But while Luque is very versed on the ground and on the feet, I just think Joe Alvarez is in the prime of his career and is just better than Vicente Luque, especially right now. And moving on now to the co-main event of this card, and we got Davison Figueiredo versus Montel Jackson. A very, very big step up for Montel Jackson on this one. Coming just from being a 15th ranked dude in this bantamweight division to fighting now the number 6 ranked guy. But not only that, but just looking at in terms of competition that they've been facing against each other, themselves in terms of their previous careers. Figueiredo was, in championship bouts with Moreno, with Pantoja, in the flyweight division, and ever since he's moved up to bantamweight, he was on I believe a 3-fight win streak, and having wins over guys like Rob Font, like Cody Garbrandt, like Marlon Chito Vera. Those are really notable names and big jump ups in terms of the bantamweight division. Obviously, he's on a 2-fight losing streak as of right now. Lost to Peter Yan, lost to Corey Sandhagen. Was close and competitive with Yan, but definitely was clearly losing that matchup. And with Sandhagen, he just got completely dominated in that matchup. Sandhagen was on a mission to be able to get his title shot, which eventually he lost to Merab, but Merab is an absolute machine. Montel Jackson is on a 6-fight win streak. And his last 2 wins have been over Damon Blackshear and Daniel Marcos. That is enough that I need to be able to say. I mean, in terms of things being on the feet, Montel Jackson does have really good boxing. He does have sharp power, especially as the wiry build that he does have. He does carry some things that Figueiredo does need to be able to worry about. But just in terms of comparison to their matchups and where they've been going so far in their career in terms of experience and having that type of IQ, I think Figueiredo is definitely going to lean on that. And having the tricks of the trade of having all that experience to his side, I do think that Figueiredo will come out on top on this matchup by decision. And while there will be moments that it will get close, and Montel Jackson will have his moments, I think, in this one, while Figueiredo is on the downside of his career and Montel Jackson may be on the uprise, it could be able to be a win for Montel Jackson. But I just think as the time as of right now, especially in terms of the level of competition that these guys have been going against each other, there's a clear discrepancy into that. And I'm going to be going with the favorite, especially with the Brazilian guy in Brazil, with Davison Figueiredo. And now on to the main event. And we got Bronx. I don't care what anybody says. Charles Oliveira is going to be getting this win over Mateusz Gamrot, and I'm going to explain it to you right now. Oliveira, he did it. He is coming off a KO loss against Topuria, and it was 3 months ago. Not really good for him to be able to just jump back in there that quickly. But this is a man that is making his own decision. All right, I'll let it be, and I'll let it be at that. Gamrot is coming off a decision win over Ludovic Klein, where he was very dominant in terms of his grappling. And a lot of people are going to be getting into the Islam Makhachev, Arman Sarukian type of deal, the brother type of build, where you get that type of wrestling in there. And, you know, they really force Charles to be on the back foot and worry about the takedown and not be as successful with his BJJ and all these other things in that nature. While Mateusz Gamrot is a really good grappler and especially a really good wrestler, he is a smudge type of wrestler. He is not a finisher type of wrestler where Makhachev is, you know, landing nasty ground and pound. Well, Arman is more known for his ground and pound. Trying to be able to get a finish through there, especially in that second round with Arman versus Oliveira. And, you know, Makhachev really knowing and trying to be able to play chess and trying to be able to fish for those submissions. Mateusz Gamrot is not that type of fighter. He can be able to take you down, and he can be able to wear on you, and the wrestling can be something that is effective, but he really doesn't really go for the finish in the fight. He really just uses it more to be able to just grain on your gas tank and just implement the style that he wants to be able to do. But again, he's not really looking for the finish, which is the absolute antithesis of what Oliveira is. Oliveira, every single second of the fight, whether it be on the ground or on the feet, is looking for that finish. Now, the one thing that I do need to be able to worry about is that a lot of people say Gamrot, his stand-up is trash, and while it doesn't look that pretty, it is effective. And while it is effective, there was a lot of moments, especially in that Dan Hooker matchup, where he had Dan Hooker hurt, or where he was hurting Dan Hooker, or they were getting into exchanges, and Gamrot was actually having a lot of success. But overall, in terms of the damage going on in the fight, Gamrot doesn't carry that much type of power in his hands that you need to be able to worry about compared to a guy like a Rafael Fiziev. Fiziev may not have tremendous power, but he does have pop, and I think that he has a lot more compared to a guy like Mateusz Gamrot. Even though, again, Gamrot's stand-up is not anything to be able to write home about, I do think that he does have enough that you can be able to worry about, and he can keep things close. But overall, just in terms of things keeping it in general, I think Oliveira is better in every single aspect compared to a Mateusz Gamrot guy, because he doesn't need to be able to worry about the finishing ability of Gamrot, because he doesn't really show or have that in terms of guys compared to him like Arman, like Islam, that really give the style that Oliveira has a lot of issues. And I do think that Oliveira will have success with his takedown defense, and if it does go to the ground, I think Oliveira will have success with his BJJ. The only thing that I am concerned about, though, is that he did make a very quick turnaround, 3 months, off of getting KO'd by Topuria. His chin, while Oliveira is very chinny and he has been wobbling and he has been dropped a lot before, he's never been slumped out cold before like how he was against Topuria. So that is a worry. Well, again, Gamrot, I'm not really worried about the type of power that he's coming in terms of his hands, because, again, he doesn't really have crazy power in his hands or in the stand-up in general. But it is something to be able to notice about, and it is a storyline and a headline that needs to be figured out. But I do think that this matchup will go down similarly how it was for Oliveira versus Beneil Dariush, where it will be competitive, but I think Oliveira will just overpower Gamrot and get the win in Brazil. Thank you guys again for watching this video. Like this video if you obviously like this video. Comment your opinions on what you think about this card. I think this card is okay. This card is alright. There's a few fights on this card that are okay. Once you get from Jonathan Deniz, Mario Pinto up on that main card, I think it's I think it's okay. But the rest of it is fight night worthy, for being quite honest. And it being in Brazil, there's a lot of Brazilians that need to be on this card, obviously. Uh, but yeah, obviously, put your comments in your comment section below so we can be able to chop it up, and subscribe. Subscribe. You're a UFC fan. You're an MMA fan, and you need somebody that talks to you correctly, that is actually consistent and gives you a lot of effort and a lot of work. And that's me. I'm the guy, man. Trust me, I'm the guy. Thank you guys again for watching again, and peace.